And then in the future, what's going to happen is if there's some civil process at the court, they'll actually be able to do an electronic signature, boom, 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 court seal it, authenticate it, and then send it immediately here. So it's speeding things up. That's the theory anyway. I mean, what works in the fields is, you know, is often different than what the theorists say.
Does it require being within a satellite?
That's cell coverage. Yes, yeah, cell phone coverage.
Cell phone.
Yeah. Cell phone coverage.
That's not that. That's better in most cases than satellite coverage.
Yeah. Oh, here, yes. And the thing about that is to actually speak to the actual system. I would have to have somebody come up here and actually do a presentation. Probably either the vendor or somebody working in government that sets us up. We had a meeting with state police, radio, and they're actually upgrading the system that we weren't ever able to buy into. You know, they're actually upgrading that.
Is that 40,000 a cruiser?
Well, there's startup costs associated with that. Most of it's with the software itself. Once you got one, you can have 5 or 7, but you still got to get the the component pieces of it, which is this PDA thing. It's the radio connections. It's changing the software. The laptop. But it is expensive. Now, as an interesting aside on this, somebody in the big plan of things, my first question was, who's running all this? Well, the answer came back, and they said, well, the grants person is running this. And I said, wrong answer. I mean, you don't have your money person driving the train, but that's kind of how it's working now. At some level, they'd like to see dispatch run on a statewide, regional level. I would, I would support that for many, many reasons, but it's going to mean, people getting together.
In other words, you'd like the state to take over dispatch?
This would be gone, yeah. If this system can ever get, talked about and stuff, but there's so many competing things in that process. So that's not going to happen for a long time, and it's not ever going to happen based upon the current pace that we're moving. Mike, you got to go to that, or? Yeah. He has a chief's meeting, so he needs to be excused.
Oh, right.
And I'll just follow on that.
Okay. Okay, right now, the bottom line for the Sheriff's Department is up by 47,800.
That's approximately 1.3%.
Somehow or other, I'd like to see, when we can get around to it, that Cybertron comes down under information technology line item rather than under other fees and services, so that we're talking about the same thing. It's IT. Right now it's $396,000. The last item on the sheriff's budget. $396.
Well, I see what you're saying.
And that's Cybertron, really. That's what is allocated to your office.
Okay.
I thought if you leave this on a computer expense.
Yeah, what I'm saying is that it ought to come down under IT.
Yeah.
Okay, does anybody have any questions on the sheriff's budget? Can we move on to the dispatch center?
Okay.
So the personal days remains the same, and the overtime figure is the same.
That's correct.
And the salary for dispatch is based on a union contract.
Yeah, we use the high end of that.
At 3%?
3%.
Is that wages, 3% increase?
The contract, the union contract reads not less than 1% and not over 3%.
Oh, that's right.
But
So
that's
what
based
Chris
on
meant by you, he used the high end.
Yeah.
Okay.
Last year in our budget, we used 2%. And because it goes by the CPI April 1st, and that's why I want to change it to November 1st, so we know what it's going to be. So we put it in the budget as an accurate figure. And if it's higher than the 2% or the 1%, then we got to eat that somewhere. It'd be nice to have that exact figure. All right, we got some special dispatches.
That's
From
correct.
From 26,000 up to 39,000.
Well, you know, what you're seeing on there is we actually used a lot less dollars this year. However, the number reflected as 9/30/2011 is 1,164.
Right.
You know, this is just one of those sharing of information between us and the business office. That number should be much closer to what was budgeted.
Okay.
So I don't know where that.
Can you work that out with Kathy Gary?
Yeah, I can talk to Kathy about that. And that number itself is based on, well, it's based on the full-time people taking their allotted time off and sick and personal days filling shifts. We don't have minimum manning in there. However, we never have less than 2, but we certainly prefer to have 3.
So are you,
3 dispatch.
is this really overtime? Well, no, not necessarily, but this is coverage.
Coverage, yeah. They're part-time people working at a flat rate, not an overtime rate.
Yeah, sorry, I misstated.
It's a flat rate, but it's used for people who are either on sick call or
Cover those who aren't
vacation
here.
time.
Right.
How many of those special dispatchers do you have?
Well, it varies. Right now, we've got, I think we only got 2, but we've had as high as 4 or 5 at times.
Okay, Social Security, medical insurance, retirement, workers' comp is the same, employment tax is the same, dental insurance is the same, education conference is the same, medical, other fees and services is the same. Okay, I notice you got meals in there for $100.
I don't know why that's in there. I think
think-
it's, yeah.
Okay.
We have to take it out?
I mean, yeah, I mean, it's been 0, and I'm really not even sure what it is, to be honest with you.
Now, uniform expenses, are they required to wear a uniform?
Well, we
I know it's a morale
yeah,
booster
well,
to have a uniform, but
Never seen it.
you got $4,500 worth of uniform expenses. Is that also in the contract whereby it's up to your discretion?
yeah, it is, and we kind of wrestle with that. I mean, I'm not so much on, uniforms per se, other than the equipment when they're in there. And the challenge is if they go out or they come into work and walking around with a jacket that says sheriff on it, I mean, the casual observer's just going to think they were a cop, and we don't need complex things going on, you know what I mean? So they aren't required to wear a uniform. However, in a lot of offices, that's the best practice. But I just haven't done that yet. They do wear, well, for lack of a better term, cold weather gear, because we keep it cold in there because of all the computers.
Yeah.
So we have used that that line item this year. So more to come on that.
Okay.
I lost track where we are.
Computer expenses.
Electric expense.
Electric is the same as last year. It seems to be a little high as compared to the previous years. Previous years, the highest one was around 4,000. And I'm not sure, I've got 3,392 is spent this year, but that's as of September.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on with the cost of electricity.
That could possibly be less by
Did the
1,000
lighting
anyway.
change have any, were there any lighting changes in that office as it was in the rest of the
And,
store?
oh yeah, every,
Oh, we did do that, yeah.
So that
Yes.
may, that may change that.
the big one here is, again, computer expense.
Yeah, and this is a,
6,000 up to 50,000.
this is mostly attributed to the Cybertron thing. Nothing's been actually hashed out with them. I was dividing it between the sheriff's office and the radio communications. You know, it's almost a dual piece.
Yeah.
To let you know where that number came from. Primary, you know, it basically reflects support for the primary computers in the communications center. 8 hours a week, 416 hours. At the original price he was given was $110, which is significantly higher than what
Yeah.
we'll negotiate or certainly end up paying. There is a situation with some obsolescence on certain equipment beginning in 2015, 2016, and it's basically at a cost of $6,500 per, and there are 4. So we aren't going to replace those all at once, but that is the budget amount for.
4 at once?
Well, if we did all 4 at once. So this item, this line item will change.
We probably ought to do that as quick as possible and talk with Cybertron to get something done on paper that we can really justify.
Yeah, I mean, we've scoped out, you know, we scoped out as a estimate $4,500 for the sheriff's office a month, which is far different than what, you know, the combined expense on line 66 here and on the under the sheriff's budget, where I have Cybertron listed there. He seems reasonable. Of course, he is looking at it just from a business model, so you know, it's like any other vendor you deal with.
Okay. NCIC, terminal expense is the same. Telephone is up less than 1,000. Communications is up 1,000. Probably ought to have some documentation on the radio communication expense on 069.
Okay.
Travel expense, do they travel at all? The $500 that's put in there?
Well, yeah, what I was doing was, if they, you know, and this has been new, but if they go to in-state trainings, they get, you know, mileage reimbursement. We were using the, you know, the business office guidance on that. I think it's 51 cents or something.
So what, on the education and conferences, is that strictly registration fee?
Well,
that include
yeah,
travel too?
it was registration, travel expenses. An example on this one in the